And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Yellow Jacket Coaches Show with head coach Steve Bordeaux. I'm Keith Womack, your host for tonight's show. The Yellow Jackets improved to 4-0 this past week against Mecklenburg County up in Virginia with a 48-0 win, and will begin Sandhills 3A, 4A play this week at Union Pines. We remind you that our Coaches Show this season airs live every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock here on WFJA Sports. And these shows will re-air 1 hour before game time each Friday night before the game. Video of each coach's show will post on Wednesdays on the homepage of the WFJA website and the WFJA Facebook page. Our coaches shows each week are brought to you by a great group of sponsors, and of course it begins with Jones Printing Company, Wilkinson Cadillac Chevrolet Buick GMC, Domino's, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, and Fix It Plumbing. We're going to take a short break and bring in head coach Steve Bordeaux, and we'll be back for the Yellow Jacket Coaches Show right after these messages.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And welcome back to the Yellow Jacket Football Coaches Show, and our Coaches Show for week number 5. Coach, seems like yesterday we were just getting started, but I'm Keith Womack. I'm joined by head coach Steve Bordeaux. The Yellow Jackets coming off a 48-0 win up in Virginia against Mecklenburg County. Coach improved to 4-0 on the season. Your thoughts on Friday's game?
Yeah, I think all three phases of the game came out and really kicked on all cylinders early, and that really, I think, helped us springboard into the game. You know, opening with really two big special teams plays, returning the opening kickoff, Kendall, bringing that one back, and then Alonzo making a great kick, and Jermaine Banks getting down the field and recovering the ball on like the 14 or 15, maybe even inside that yard line. Within 2 minutes in the game, we're already up 14-0. It kind of really impacts the other side a lot, makes it a little bit easier on the defense, and the defense has played really well.
Well, nobody's going to see it on the stat sheet, and unless you were there at the game, you don't realize just how good, now I wouldn't even say good, but great Hernandez kickoffs were.
Yep.
He was putting them where they weren't, and on that first one, I mean, it was like a sitting duck there on the pond, and all you had to do was jump on it. Jackets did just that, as you said, went up 14-0. Really quick, and really put Mecklenburg County behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, definitely so. And it I'm sure it affected their game plan just a little bit. They had some talented guys on both sides of the ball. We were able to control. They had 2 different quarterbacks that rotated in. They were both athletes enough that could break some stuff. The linebacker level did a really good job of keeping those guys contained, and it was probably our best game so far by our defensive line. Coach Green, really getting after those guys and keeping those guys coached up front, and they stepped up.
I was just about to say one of the better defensive efforts we've seen this year. Now, we don't know a lot about Mecklenburg County, but they did have a victory over a pretty good team from the Virginia area prior to the Yellow Jacket game last week. But the Jackets, with a shutout, only allowed 183 yards during the whole contest.
Yeah, I think our goal going into every game is obviously that we're trying to pitch the shutout. Going back and watching film, there were a couple plays here and there where we let them extend the drive, but we were putting them in second and long, third and long situations over and over. And that's with the guys in our back end that can cover, it makes it a lot easier for them and a lot tougher for the other team. So,
well, Coach Mark Schlesinger, your starting quarterback, missed half of the game 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Missed the entire game this past week. Any update on his status?
So Mark practiced today. Mark practiced yesterday. Hopefully, I guess he's a day-to-day is what I would consider him. But he's working his butt off to get healthy, and Coach Womack is there right beside him, making sure. And we want to make sure that we're going to put him in a situation to, one, protect himself, but be ultra successful on the field, because we have a lot of guys that can step up and help, and him not try to do more than he has to.
Well, the good news is, Coach, you got a sophomore quarterback. Jack Martin came in, I thought did an outstanding job. You know, I'm sure with a player who doesn't even drive a car yet, and he gets in there in the game, you really just want him to go through the motions, do the things that you've taught him to do. He seemed to do that last Friday night. Ended up, I believe, 6 of 7 through the air, 100-plus yards. Let me see. I want to make sure I get this right. He was actually 6 of 7, 133 yards on the night. Did not throw any interceptions.
Nope.
So I thought, considering what you wanted done, he got done.
No, definitely so. And it was kind of, what we expected from Jack. Jack works his butt off. Jack is a student of the game. He knows the offense, and we made sure the plays we were calling were things he was familiar with. And hats off to the offensive line for keeping them standing up and giving them time. And the receivers, when they got the ball, they made plays with it. They had some big ones. Jaden Hill had a really good game along with Kendall.
Well, we even talked about this before the game. That's one of the beauties of your offense. You know, it's not like you're throwing the ball downfield every play. And a lot of the way the offense is run, it really sets up somebody to gain confidence in that passing game. And certainly that's what he did. And, of course, the Jackets go on to a 48-0 victory. Got to talk a little bit about Kendall Morris. 83-yard kickoff return to open the game. Awesome. He ended up having another touchdown on a 28-yard pass from Martin. I thought he had an outstanding game. And, of course, B.J. Brown. A subpar game for him, Coach. Only 173 yards, but still averaging right at 200 yards a game.
Yeah, and that's BJ's goal. BJ wants to get 200 yards a game. That's definitely a goal that he set for himself. And that's a fairly steep goal, but he's working his butt off. And those offensive linemen paving the way. That was one of our better games up front of anything they did to adjust, whether it was bringing pressure or not. The offensive linemen, as the game went on, were communicating. Coach Santiago and Coach Bird did a great job of making sure they saw what was coming. And as we adjusted, we continued to have some big gains. And, BJ and Jermaine Banks. Jermaine had a couple really good gains as well.
Yeah, he did. Came in 83 yards on 6 carries. I mean, I know it was in cleanup mode, but still, you got to go out there and do it. And you had probably some fresh jerseys on the line, too, getting some reps that weren't early in the game. So I thought he did an outstanding job.
Yeah, one thing, when Jermaine comes in there, Jermaine was running really, really hard. We rotating a couple guys on the offensive line, but they still had their starting guys out there. So, it's one of those situations. A lot of times in that, hats off to the other offensive linemen that come in, because they also were able to effectively move the ball. But it was good seeing Jermaine break some, because he's working his butt off and he's playing some defense and special teams. He's a little bit all over the field. Another sophomore.
Well, Coach, something you can throw at BJ a little bit maybe tomorrow at practice. We had a kid, Rayshawn Kennedy. I believe, I have to go back and look at the books, he had his junior year and his senior year 2,000 yards. It might have been he only had 1,900 his senior year, but I think that's a great benchmark for him to go after, because obviously if he averages 200 yards a game, he's going to hit that mark. So we're going to certainly continue to pull for him as the year goes on. Congratulations to all the players that just thought an outstanding game. A 48-0 victory. I do got to ask you, why was that not a 2-point conversion?
So, yeah, good question. So we have I don't know what you want to call it. The kicker, our kicker did not move quick enough for our holder. When we catch that ball, his knee is down because we're expecting him to kick it. Then he gets up and run with it. At that point, he's really down because his knee is down when he picks up the ball. A lot of times when you see that situation, it's off of a bad snap or a muff snap. So you're already up and you're moving around. But in that particular situation, we weren't trying to fake it. It's 48-0. Isaiah felt like his time was running out, so he got up and ran, but his knee was down. So that's what they called him on. They made the right call.
All right, we were just curious because we couldn't figure out why they called that back. I thought perhaps in that situation he had to be touched to be down.
Right.
But I'm glad you clarified that rule, and for anybody that was watching the game, now you know the answer too. Coach, some great individual performances, but at the end of the day, what the Jackets are looking for is those conference wins, which starts this coming Friday night, and then of course Lee County will be at Union Pines. It's a road game, but it's not far down the road, so we hope all the Yellow Jacket fans will come out and support the Jackets Friday night. Just around the conference, the Cavaliers across town will be playing Richmond at home next week, so go out and support the Cavaliers as well. Scotland County will be playing Hope County, and then of course Pinecrest is idle. In last week's game, just some other results. Southern Lee picks up their first win, 41-22 over Fairmont. That game called, from what I heard, toward the end of the third quarter. We'll let Coach talk about that in his next segment. Scotland County with a victory, 28-27 over Jack Britt. Grimsley defeated Pinecrest 32-7. I think that puts them at 2 losses now during the preseason. 71st, 35, Hope County 15. St. Paul's with a 42-13 victory over Union Pines, and Richmond County finally picking up a victory with a 28-19 victory over Southview. So that's kind of around the conference and where everybody's gone. And it's been tough so far in the conference or non-conference play for our conference teams this year.
Yeah, I think one thing that is for sure, our conference is playing very tough teams. They have scheduled a tough non-conference schedule. Some of those games have come out on the wrong end for our conference, but now we're to the point of we're conference play. It's us versus it's all of us versus each other. Luckily for us, that shortens a couple of our rides. We had a couple a little bit closer ones. So looking forward to second year in this conference.
Well, Coach, real quick in our final 30 seconds to a minute before our break, what kind of experience was it for the kids to go out in Virginia and play, and not only to go to Virginia and play, but playing on artificial turf? How the kids respond? Well, they responded well, but how'd they enjoy it?
So I think that whole trip was well executed, I guess I would say. From the point that we left on the buses, we stopped and ate at NC State, got to see that experience as well, eating our pregame meal there. We handled it with business when we got to Mecklenburg County, a beautiful campus. That was one of the biggest schools I've seen, walking through the inside of it. They're showing us. But from the whole time, the boys stayed focused and obviously started off well all the way through the ride home. I think that's definitely one they will remember all the way through.
I hope so. It was great to be up there with you guys. I do want to thank our sponsors real quick: Jones Printing Company, Wilkinson Cadillac, Chevrolet Buick GMC, Domino's, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, and Fix It Plumbing. We're going to take a quick break and hear from a few of these sponsors. We'll be right back to talk more Yellow Jacket football right after this break.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And welcome back once again to the Yellow Jacket Coaches Show. I'm Keith Womack, your host, and I've got head coach Steve Bordeaux here with me. Coach, big victory last week. With big victories come big performances. And, of course, John and I have the privilege of picking our Norman Financial Group and Bubba's Subs players of the game. And we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball tonight. Offensively, John and I chose Kendall Morris. He had the kickoff return. He had 2 catches, a touchdown. Also played great defense, but he really set the tone for that game, which allowed the Jackets really just to cruise through those 4 quarters.
Yeah, definitely. So Kendall's doing an outstanding job. Returning that opening kickoff. He's playing some receiver. He's balled into doing that. He's playing some DB. He's willing to do whatever the team needs him to do to be successful. And he's making some plays. So well deserved.
Well, Coach, also as part of our Norman Financial Group and Bubba's Subs players of the game, on the defensive side, this is going to feel like a strange pick, but Alonzo Hernandez, the kicker, is he a sophomore or junior?
Junior.
A junior kicker. He had perfect placement on all 7 kickoffs. I mean, it was just perfect. 2 recovered by Lee County. Again, that was a big part of that defensive play that set the offensive up in great field position. And it also had, he was 6 of 6 on his point after touchdown attempt. So Alonzo Hernandez, our defensive player again.
Yeah, Alonzo, just as you said, put the ball exactly where he wanted it. A couple times we recovered, and the times we didn't necessarily recover the ball, he was pinning guys outside the numbers, and that allows us to tackle them without them getting any big gains. So putting them in really bad field position, making the PATs, and thankfully he didn't have to punt. So that's always a good thing.
Well, Coach, going from John and I, who think we know everything about football, to the coaching staff who does know everything about football, and you guys had a chance to pick the Wilkinson Cadillac Chevrolet Buick GMC player of the game, and of course I'll let you announce who your player of the game was for Friday night.
Yeah, so we went with Kendall Morris also. Kendall, I always try to look at this as somebody who's affected the game greatly. And when you affected on all three phases of the game, I think you pretty much checked that box off. And returning the kick, not letting anybody catch a ball in his area of the field or on him, and obviously playing some offense and making some big plays there, as well as blocking when we're running the ball and doing all those things well. Kendall was who we went with.
So congratulations to Kendall Morris, who was our Norman Financial Group and Bubba Sub offensive player of the game, also the coach's pick for the player of the game, and then of course to Alonzo Hernandez, who was our Norman Financial Group and Bubba Subs and player of the game on the defensive side. Congratulations to each one of them, and Coach, I think we could have picked 5 or 6 other players. I thought there were a lot of guys who had really good results Friday night.
Yeah, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Defensively, that was a really well-played game. Coach Heron and Coach Little, those guys are doing an outstanding job making sure that everybody's in the right positions in the back end, and was really proud of how the boys ran to the football, took the coaching and the little adjustments we needed to do in the game, and finished when we were in spots to make tackles.
Well, Coach, one last thing really before we get off of last week's game, because there were a lot of holes created by that big offensive line.
Yeah.
We're hoping we're going to talk about them versus Union Pines on Friday night. But who are some of those guys making these big holes? Tell us a little bit about that big O-line.
Yeah, definitely. So Aiden Rooney plays left tackle and is a 3-year starter for us. Wyatt Rickards, one of our guards. Nick Dark, Lance Womble, Ryan Schertz, Tyler McMullen, Kentrell White, and Forrest Montgomery. All those guys rotate or play significant snaps on the offensive side of the ball, and are doing a really good job of keeping the quarterbacks clean and obviously making those big holes, as you say, for the running backs.
Well, Coach, I'm going to tell you, I probably shouldn't say this live on the air, but Tyler McMullen, somebody told me, when you look at him, he's a physical presence. Mm-hmm. He's a strong guy. I've seen some of the videos of him in the weight room, and he's a big guy, and he's a strong guy. But I've also heard he's one of the biggest sweethearts in the locker room. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Yeah, so we're fortunate. We got some guys that can when we're in between the lines, be some tough guys, some rough guys. Nick Dark and Wyatt Rickard are two of those guys that will grind it out and really be tough at the point of contact. But then, as you say, all that group it's a family. Even with some of the guys on the defensive line joining that group as well, because all those boys practice together in every period, and we have a special group of linemen.
Well, that's awesome. Coach, let's talk about Union Pines a little bit. An opponent we've seen many times, and now in our conference, and has been in our conference for a pretty good while. We're going to make that 10-12 mile trip down Union Pines High School, my wife's alma mater. What do we know about Union Pines, and or what can we expect from Union Pines, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, so I think on the JV and varsity level, they have continued the last couple of years. I feel like they take a step to be a little bit better each year. They have a couple of dynamic guys on offense when they touch the ball.
Biggs.
Yeah, he's been around a couple of years now, but they also have a receiver and another guy that rotates in at running back that if you give them a little bit of a crease, they can take the ball a long ways and have done it a few times throughout this year. Defensively, they do a really good job of alignment and assignment. They're not going to miss a line. Coach does a good job of making sure defensively they're going to be in the right spots, and they're there to make plays. So it's going to make us be fundamentally sound, and hopefully we come ready to play.
Coach, if we want to remind all the fans out there, now we're getting back to North Carolina play. It's a little different. Just a reminder, the people going to Friday night's game at Union Pines, if you want a ticket, I don't believe you walk up to the gate and get it anymore. You go to gofan.com to get your tickets prior to the game. So, Coach, anything different than that? And then I wanted to also ask you, how are we mentally and physically? Do we have any guys that might be out Friday?
So I'm hoping that we make it into Friday pretty clean. At this point in the year, there's some guys with some bumps and bruises. We have a couple guys that were out last week that are going to be out for a little bit of time. But overall, we're fairly, I guess, fairly healthy. Ticket-wise, GoFan should be solid for the rest of our conference schedule. All the conference teams are supposed to be using GoFan. Varsity kickoffs will be 7:30 through conference, and JV kickoffs will be 6:30. So Thursday night, the Jackets JV team will play Union Pines. The boys are 4-0 on JV, and they've only let one touchdown so far.
Lee County?
Lee County has only let one touchdown on JV so far. So hopefully we can keep try to get another shutout.
Well, you're talking about all those injuries. I would like to remind everybody we do have a Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
Trainer.
Yes, sir. Coach Womack definitely is as good as it gets, flat out, period. And not just at the job, at being a great individual as well.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, thanks for coming by and joining us tonight as we get ready for this week's game. And best of luck against, of course, Friday night's opponent, Union Pines.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a short break and come back right after these messages.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And welcome back one final time to the Lee County Yellow Jacket Coaches Show. And special thanks to Coach Steve Bordeaux for coming in tonight. Of course, I'm your host, Keith Womack. I'd like to remind you that you can catch the Coaches Show this season live every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock right here on 105.5 WFJA. And these shows will re-air 1 hour prior to game time on Friday nights. And the video of each Coaches Show will post on Wednesdays on the homepage of the WFJA website and the WFJA Facebook page. Our Coaches Shows each week are brought to you by a great group of sponsors, and we hope you will thank these advertisers with a thank you and even with your business. Bringing you the Coaches Shows for 2022 are Jones Printing Company, Wilkinson Cadillac Chevrolet Buick GMC, Domino's, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, and Fix It Plumbing. We thank you all for listening to tonight's show. Get ready. It's time for Yellow Jacket football.